Alright guys, I'm just going to try to take you through what I've learned so far using Epic. So once you get to this screen, you're going to want to log in using your Tent Card user ID and password. You can use the same one I use. It's IPPT10 is what I had to use. It's whatever number they assigned you, or you can pick a random number, 0 to 10 I guess. Password is train. You log in, you come to this first screen. Ours is hopefully going to say HOI or JV HOI, but this is basically our department. And you click OK. So we're going to use right now this OSV Therapy PT Acute. That's our playground. Okay, click on that, log in. Alright, so this is the first screen you get to. You're gonna want to look through all of these when you have a chance, but just kind of get familiar with this screen. This box right here is gonna have outpatients, and on the right side it's gonna have all the inpatients. So once you actually create a list, you're gonna see your patients show up here. So let's create a list. So right up here it says patient lists. Okay, this screen will show up. I'm going to create my list. Now all we're doing is we're creating our preferences for the first time, but when we do go live, this should only be once and we don't have to repeat this every time. So I'm going to create my list. Clicking on edit list, create my list. My name currently is Madison Burgos, but I'll just put Chris's list. And then we're going to grab one of these templates that come from this copy when you click on copy, but you can customize it depending on what we need. But for now, we'll click on copy, and then you're going to select inpatient physical therapist template. All it's doing is grabbing a bunch of columns for you already, so you don't have to select individual ones. And you click accept, and you're going to see all of those columns show down here. And when you have time, when we first start, you're going to want to look at what all these columns mean, and you can arrange them, add them, remove some, create a bunch of other lists that have specific columns that you want to look at. For now, we'll just use the template, and I'm going to click accept. Now you have under your list, your main header, all of these columns, right? So we need to add patients. In the playground, you're going to use St. Vincent Medical Center. Open that. And we only need the PT patients. We don't need to go through all of the admitted patients. So you're going to scroll down to PT and click on PT all. So now all these patients actually, they're not currently on your list, so you have to bring it over. So you can either drag this up there or just right click and say send to Chris's list or your list. Now all of these patients should hopefully show up under my list. And there they are. Okay. I'm going to move this out of the way and now show you the list. Now you can always click on these columns and they're going to arrange them by alphabetical order or by age and sex, by orders. So anytime you click on something, it's going to rearrange it to whatever you set it at. I am using my Mac, so for some reason this doesn't all show up, but hopefully it does on your computer. So for now, I'm going to click on one patient. I'm going to use Richard Acetate. Okay, now if you notice down here, there's a face sheet. You can again customize whatever you see down here by looking at this search bar. And you can look at all these different reports. So So for example, if you wanted to look at the patient's calendar, you can look at that. It says happy birthday. Or you can look at rehab summary. Now this patient doesn't have a summary yet, but when you do have documentation here, there's going to show up a bunch of information down here. So just be aware of that when we go live, that should show up there. And you can scroll down, you can even look at sticky notes, which I'll show you later. But it's basically like a sticky note that you use to communicate with other therapists. Anytime you see a search box with a magnifying glass and right next to it there's a wrench, that basically means you can add whatever report you viewed here and add it to this section here without having to constantly look for it. So it's going to actually lock it into place over here. So I'm going to click on, for example, this toolbar, and right now the only thing that will show up is face sheet. So I'm going to add rehab summary. I'll scroll down looking for the rehab summary, and now I'm going to add that. Next step. There it is. It's here now. So every time I look at a patient, another patient, I don't have to search it anymore. I just look at the rehab summary. So if I went to another patient, for example, Richard ZZP Master B, all of this will show up here. Okay. So that's the good thing about Epic. There's a lot of things you can click on. They get to certain information. So the only way you're going to really understand this program is by using the playground, practicing as whenever you have a chance. So the only way I learned is by using this over and over again. Okay, I'm going to close this so you can see. So again, whenever you see an arrow like this, a triangle, it just basically opens up another window, or it minimizes it. Okay. Now on this screen still, this is also when we do have our own patients. Whoever is the lead therapist is going to schedule or assign us to that particular patient. So for example, Richard Acetate, I'm going to right click on this. If I was the lead therapist or doing the scheduling, and I clicked on these 5 patients, for example, to assign a specific therapist, I'm just going to right click it and then assign whoever I want to assign. Or I can assign myself. So for example, again, my name is Madison Burgos, so I'm going to assign myself. I'm sorry, let's cancel that. Let's see if I can assign myself here. Relationship, physical therapist. There you go. Sorry, so actually I just had to do that. So I'm going to assign myself to these other patients. I'm going to select them all, right click, assign me. I am not the attending, I am a physical therapist, so I'm going to type in physical therapist and click accept. I think it's because these patients are technically in the emergency room, so hopefully we don't have to type this in every time. There you go. Okay, now I know that these 5 patients have been assigned to me, or I can also unassign myself, kind of the same way. Select them all, right click. I am going to unassign me if it lets me. And my assignment. So I'm going to click on these guys and my assignment. There you go. Okay, so I'm just going to go back up to the top, click on this guy. I'm going to assign me. physical therapist. Accept. Okay, so this patient is currently my patient. There are a lot more columns that will show up, and we'll have to go into detail which ones we're going to use as a department. There are some including the admission procedure, problem. There are other little icons that show up if a patient's being discharged. But again, I don't think we have access to that at the moment. But when we do, we'll try to figure out which ones exactly we'll use, such as like when a patient is discharged, there's a little car icon that will show up to show that the patient's being discharged. But in orthopedics, we probably don't need to worry about that as much because almost all our patients will be leaving in the first 1 to 2 days. So just know that there's going to be a lot of other columns that you can use. You can also drag this over to minimize how big it looks. You can also wrap the text, which shrinks that down. My screen isn't big enough, so it's not showing all the other information here for now. Actually, yeah, this is all the information I have under my columns I selected earlier. So, okay, this right here basically means there's a new PT order that needs to be acknowledged. So we're going to go into that next. All right.